You need to understand something that most men will never figure out in their entire lives. Right at this moment, the woman in your life is running a completely invisible evaluation of everything you do. She's not telling you about it. She's not announcing it. She's not even fully aware she's doing it half the time. But it's happening. And the choices you make in the next few days, the way you respond to her energy, the tone you use when you speak, even the speed at which you reply to a simple message, all of it is being quietly recorded and analyzed by a part of her mind that operates entirely beneath the surface. Now, before you think this is about paranoia or some kind of relationship game, stop. This isn't about manipulation. This isn't about her being crazy or difficult. This is about understanding how human connection actually works when someone has given you their trust, their vulnerability, and their emotional investment. When a woman opens her heart to you fully, she doesn't just hand over affection and hope for the best. Her entire nervous system becomes wired to detect shifts in your energy because her emotional survival depends on it. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a woman who has seen your worst days. She knows about the job you lost 3 years ago. She knows about the argument you had with your brother that you're still ashamed of. She's aware of the insecurities you hide from everyone else. She's seen you at your lowest, your most frustrated, your most uncertain. And despite all of that, despite every logical reason to protect herself and walk away, she chose to stay. She didn't stay casually. She didn't stay out of convenience. She anchored her emotions to you. She made a decision that you, with all your flaws and complications, are worth her energy and her heart. That decision didn't come lightly. Her brain went through a process. She weighed the risks. She considered the possibilities. She looked at who you are and made a choice that required courage. But here's what most men completely miss. That choice isn't permanent in the way you think it is. It's not a contract signed in stone. It's a living, breathing decision that gets reevaluated constantly based on how you show up every single day. You might think that once a woman loves you, the hard part is over. You might assume that because she said yes to a relationship, because she sleeps next to you at night, because she's introduced you to her family, that her feelings are locked in forever. But emotional attachment doesn't work like a light switch. It's not on or off. It's more like a river that's always moving, always responding to the landscape around it. And right now, that river is shifting direction based on signals you're sending without even realizing it. Tonight, something small is going to happen. Maybe it already happened earlier today. Maybe it'll happen tomorrow morning. It's not going to be a huge fight. It's not going to be a dramatic moment where everything falls apart. It's going to be tiny. A look that lasts half a second too long. A reply that feels just a little bit colder than usual. A moment where she reaches out emotionally and your response doesn't quite land the way she expected. To you, it'll be nothing. You'll forget about it 5 minutes later. But to her, it's a data point. And her mind is collecting data points constantly. Here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. Women don't fall out of love because of one big mistake. They fall out of love because of 1,000 tiny moments where they felt unseen, unheard, or emotionally disconnected. And the scary part is that most of those moments happen when the man thinks everything is perfectly fine. You're sitting on the couch, scrolling through your phone, she's next to you talking about her day, you're nodding, you're giving short responses. In your mind, you're present, you're there. But she's picking up on the fact that your attention is split. She's noticing that your eyes haven't actually left the screen. She's registering that your tone is flat. And in that moment, a tiny crack forms. Not a break, just a crack. One crack means nothing. But 100 cracks over the course of weeks and months, That's when the foundation starts to crumble. Most men are completely blind to this process because they measure connection differently than women do. Men tend to think in terms of actions. Did I show up? Did I pay the bill? Did I fix the problem she mentioned? Check, check, check. Mission accomplished. But women measure connection in terms of emotional presence. They're asking a completely different set of questions. Does he see me right now? Does he feel what I'm feeling? Is he emotionally available or just physically here? When a woman feels deeply connected to you, she's not just enjoying your company, she's in a state of emotional synchronization. Her nervous system is literally regulating itself based on your energy. When you're calm, she feels safe. When you're engaged, she feels valued. When you're warm, she feels loved. But the moment that synchronization breaks, even slightly, her system goes on alert. It's not a conscious choice. It's biology. It's the same mechanism that kept our ancestors alive by detecting threats before they became obvious. Now here's where it gets complicated. A woman who loves you deeply is also a woman who is deeply vulnerable. She's given you access to the most private parts of her emotional world. She's let you see her without armor. And that means you have the power to hurt her in ways that no one else can. Her mind knows this. So it stays vigilant, not because she doesn't trust you, but because trust itself is a risk. And her brain is hardwired to manage that risk by staying aware of how you're treating that trust. Think about the last time she seemed a little distant. Maybe she was quieter than usual. Maybe she seemed distracted. Maybe her texts were shorter. You probably didn't think much of it. You figured she was tired or stressed about work. And maybe she was. But there's also a good chance that something shifted in how she was perceiving you. Not something big, something small. A comment you made that didn't sit right. A moment where she needed reassurance and you didn't pick up on it. A tone in your voice that felt dismissive, even though you didn't mean it that way. She didn't bring it up because she's not even fully sure what she's feeling yet. She's still processing. She's still running the data through her internal system, trying to figure out if it's a pattern or just a one-time thing. And this is the phase where most men completely lose the plot. They keep acting exactly the same, thinking consistency equals reliability. But consistency without emotional awareness just becomes predictability. And predictability without depth becomes boring. And boring becomes invisible. And invisible becomes replaceable. I want you to imagine her perspective for a second. She wakes up every morning and chooses you. Not because she has to, not because she's trapped, but because in her mind, you represent something valuable. Safety, excitement, partnership, growth, a future. But that representation only holds as long as the reality matches the story she's telling herself. The moment the reality starts to feel different from the story, doubt creeps in. And doubt is the enemy of desire. Doubt doesn't show up like a villain in a movie. It shows up quietly, it whispers, it plants tiny questions. Is he still the same person I fell for? Does he still see me the way he used to? Am I still a priority or have I become background noise? These questions don't get answered in one conversation. They get answered over time through 1,000 micro interactions. The way you greet her when you come home, the way you listen when she's talking, the way you touch her when you walk past, the way you respond when she's upset. Every single one of those moments is either building trust or eroding it. And the tricky part is that you can't fake it. You can't perform your way through this. She's not measuring your actions in isolation. She's measuring the energy behind the actions. She can feel when you're genuinely present versus when you're just going through the motions. She can sense when your affection is real versus when it's obligatory. And once she starts sensing a gap between what you're doing and what you're actually feeling, The observer part of her brain kicks into overdrive. The observer is the part of her that steps back and watches instead of just experiencing. It's the part that starts asking questions instead of just feeling feelings. And once the observer is active, everything changes. You're no longer just her partner, you're being studied. She's looking for patterns, she's testing theories, she's gathering evidence to either confirm that everything is fine or to prepare herself for the possibility that it's not. And here's the brutal truth. Most men don't even know they're being observed until it's too late. They keep doing what they've always done, completely unaware that the lens through which she's seeing them has shifted. They think they're maintaining the relationship when in reality, they're slowly losing her attention, her respect, and eventually her emotional investment. So what do you do? How do you navigate this invisible test that you didn't even know you were taking? First, you have to understand that this isn't about performing. It's not about suddenly becoming perfect or never making mistakes. It's about awareness. It's about recognizing that your relationship is not a static thing you achieved in the past. It's a living dynamic that requires attention, intention, and presence. Start paying attention to the small moments. When she tells you about her day, put your phone down. Look at her. Actually listen, not just to the words, but to the emotion behind the words. When she seems off, don't just assume she'll get over it. Ask her. Create space for her to feel heard. When she reaches out for connection, whether that's physical touch or a random text or a look across the room, meet her there. Don't just acknowledge it. Match her energy. Understand that women don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be present. They need to feel like they matter, like their emotions are valid, like their presence in your life is something you value, not something you take for granted. The moment a woman starts to feel like an afterthought, like a checkbox on your daily routine, the emotional distance begins. And here's the thing about emotional distance. It doesn't announce itself. It grows quietly in the background while everything on the surface looks fine. You're still having dinner together, you're still sleeping in the same bed, you're still going through the routines, but the connection underneath is thinning. And by the time you notice, by the time you realize something is actually wrong, she's already been dealing with it alone for weeks or even months. You can't afford to wait until the warning signs are obvious. You have to stay connected to the subtle shifts, the slight change in her tone, the way she looks at you when she thinks you're not paying attention, the moments where she used to light up and now she just seems neutral. These are the signals that tell you where you stand. And if you ignore them, if you brush them off as her being moody or sensitive, you're setting yourself up for a conversation down the line that starts with the words, "We need to talk." That conversation is never about one thing. It's about everything. It's about all the small moments where she felt unseen, all the times she needed you emotionally and you were physically there but mentally gone, all the instances where she tried to connect and your response felt cold or dismissive or distracted. She's been stacking those moments like bricks, and eventually the wall gets high enough that she can't see over it anymore. But it doesn't have to go that way. You have the power to shift this right now, not through grand gestures or expensive gifts or dramatic declarations, through presence, through awareness, through showing up emotionally in the small everyday moments that most men completely overlook. That's where relationships are actually built, not in the big moments, in the quiet ones, in the ordinary Tuesday evening when nothing special is happening and you choose to be fully there with her anyway. She's not asking you to be someone you're not. She's asking you to be the version of yourself that she fell in love with, the one who saw her, who made her feel safe and excited at the same time, who made her believe that letting her guard down was worth the risk. That version of you is still in there. But if you've been coasting, if you've been assuming that love takes care of itself, you've probably let that version fade into the background. Bring it back. Not because you're trying to win her over again, but because that's who you actually are when you're at your best. And she deserves your best, not your leftovers, not your distracted half attention, your full presence, your genuine care, your emotional availability. Right now, she's watching. She's waiting to see if you're still the man she chose. She's looking for proof that her trust wasn't misplaced. She's hoping that the story she told herself about you is still true. You can either confirm that story or you can let it quietly unravel. The choice is yours. But make no mistake, the choice is happening right now, in the way you speak to her today, in the way you respond to her tonight, in the way you show up tomorrow morning. This isn't about pressure. It's about reality. Love isn't passive. Connection isn't automatic. Relationships require attention. And the woman who chose you despite everything deserves a man who understands that and acts accordingly. Be that man, not someday, right now.